What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/ProRevenge. Alright, this story's called, How Fast Was the Heathen Going When He Backed Into Your Father? Cross-posted from Malicious Compliance. I'm not sure this strictly could be called ProRevenge, but then I wasn't sure it could be called Malicious Compliance. But it was well received and suggested to cross-post here. If this was a mistake, let me know and I'll remove it. Also, I'm going to be deliberately vague about places and exact dates for reasons that will be apparent shortly. Any and all dialogue is to the best of my memory and probably sounds a lot cleverer than it really was, but isn't that always how one remembers these things? Background. This was back in the 1990s. I had recently been medically retired from the military and was attending college in Texas. My wife was working in her chosen field while I did my level best to decide what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. Anyway, one day I left the campus, going around the backside to avoid traffic. I was heading over to pick my wife up for lunch and ended up sitting behind another car at a stop sign. The car in front of me was a brand new Chevy, one of their little sexy models. The actual trade name escapes me at the moment, in candy apple red, being driven by a fairly new blonde, also a little sexy model, whose name will also slip by unuttered. I sat, an old sailor in an old pickup, just listening to the radio and thinking about lunch, when the Chevy drove into the intersection and then stopped. I didn't think anything of it, so I hadn't done more than put my hand on the gear shift in preparation of pulling up, when suddenly, with a suitable squeal of tire, the Chevy shot back at me. I slapped the shift into reverse, but was too late. The little Chevy smashed into the front of my truck, doing around 25 to 30 miles per hour. After a second, I cut my engine, got out of the cab, and walked around to the front of my truck. The good news was that I could see that I wasn't gonna have to worry about the loose belt squeal anymore. The bad news is that the front of my little pickup was pretty much total. A grill drove back into the radiator, water all over the pavement, headlights smashed. I bent down and noticed that there seemed to be oil leaking as well. With a sigh of total incomprehension, I walked further up to the passenger door of the little red Chevy and its blonde driver. I was pissed, but not enraged. I guess I was still trying to figure out exactly what had happened and why she ended up stopping in mid-turn and put it in reverse like that. I looked through the tinted window and she was on the phone, talking agitatedly to someone. With all the cell phone silliness I'd seen since leaving the military, seeing her yapping on one really didn't surprise me. Although, had I thought about it, I should have wondered who exactly she was calling. Instead, I tapped on the window and she turned a bland face to me, then screamed into the phone, loud enough to penetrate the glass. "Oh my god, he's got a tire iron!" Naturally, I spun around and looked behind me. Then the nickel dropped. I turned in a slow circle and noted that there were no businesses, houses, or apartments in view, nor was anyone on the sidewalks or walking down the roads. For that matter, the only traffic was several blocks away in any direction. Her little car was sitting at the stop sign, almost exactly where it had been when I pulled in behind her. I stepped back and looked at our vehicles. Yep, it looked for all the world as if I'd rear-ended her. Damn! That little bimbo had set me up! I quickly walked back to my truck, thinking as fast as I could. Any minute now, a police car was going to show up, called by the little blonde, expecting to find a crazed man with a tire iron, and I dearly needed to not be that man. I pulled my tire iron out from behind my seat and threw it as far as I could into the nearby field, then jumped back into my truck. It was a slim chance, but it was the only hope I had. I made sure the truck was in reverse, then belted myself in, slammed my face into the steering wheel, opened my door and heard sirens not too far away, and half slumped out the open door at an uncomfortable angle. I went limp just as the police car screeched to a halt. I ignored the policeman screaming at me to get out of the truck, trusting that my limp body would not move him to open fire. He finally edged his way over, noticed the bloody nose, tugged at an eyelid. I made sure my eye was well rolled up, and let me drop back into position. I stayed limp while he checked on the blonde, who was near hysterical with fright over the lunatic with the tire iron, until she saw me, that is. I'd hoped that her rearview mirror was as off as it looked, or that she'd been too involved with concocting her own story to notice what I was doing. At seeing my body hanging limply below the driver's door of my truck, she stammered to a halt. A second set of sirens had been getting closer, and the policeman told the now silent blonde to stay in her car. A few seconds later, someone cut me out of my seatbelt and laid me on the ground. A competent set of hands checked my vitals, and within a few seconds, a harsh and demanding smell flooded my clotting nose. I fought it for a few seconds and made a pretty good display of a man coming around after having been knocked out. I immediately made to throw myself to the side and stopped, half being restrained and half staring wildly around to see what had happened. The medic sat back when I sat up. I looked at the front end of my truck and moaned, "What the hell did that idiot do to my truck?" He told me to lie back down and started asking me professional questions about where I hurt and could I feel my toes and all that crap. Every few seconds, I'd look back at the wreck and mutter about the idiot backing up like that, and what the hell had he been smoking, little bits of angry stuff. The policeman, having gotten the blonde statement, walked over and asked me if I felt up to talking. I said I felt fine, just a little sore. The medic okayed it and helped me to my feet. I gave the officer my license and proof of insurance and included my retired military ID card, then sat on my front seat and, as if I just noticed, asked what had happened to my seatbelt. He explained that I had to be cut out of it, and I shrugged. Just another item for his insurance company to pay for, I guess. What the hell was his story, officer? Why did he back up that way? The policeman looked sharply at me and asked me what I meant. I described exactly what had happened, but concealing the fact that I knew that it was a female driving the Chevy and kept referring to her as him. After I got done and he'd finished writing it all down, he asked if I had any proof. Proof? What do you mean, proof? I frowned at him, then let my jaw drop a bit. Hey, wait a minute. You ain't telling me that guy, that idiot, is saying that I did this, are you? He admitted that the other driver's story was that I'd rear-ended her, not him, and then threatened her with a tire iron. I frowned again and informed him that I didn't have a tire iron, that it was sitting in the garage in my house a couple of hours away. I moved aside as he searched the cab of my truck and caught a lucky break when he noticed, without my having to point it out to him, that my truck was still in reverse. He got out of my cab, frowning, then asked me to stay where I was and walked up to the Chevy. He then asked the blonde to step out of her car, and when she'd done so, leaned into the open driver's side door. After a few seconds, he stood back up and asked the girl to repeat her statement of what happened. It was a marvelously teary bit of acting, but she almost blew it by being somewhat puzzled when he didn't react. Instead, he asked her to go on and describe everything that had happened after the accident and everything she'd done then. She backed down from the tire iron story, saying that it might have simply been a reflection on her window, but insisted that I'd at least beaten on her window and that I'd simply been putting on an act for their benefit. The police looked over at the medic, who slowly shook his head. Years of doing search and rescue might not have done much good for me physically, but I sure as hell know what an unconscious man acts like. Oh my god, I love this. The policeman then asked her if she'd tried to drive away or had she immediately shut off her engine. She said that the engine had died, and no matter what lies I'd said, that she'd never tried to leave the scene of the accident. The policeman nodded once and asked the medic to step over. He then asked the medic to sit in the Chevy and confirm that it was in reverse. I love smart people. I didn't even have to suggest he check. When I last saw the little blonde, she was honestly crying. She was also handcuffed and being driven away, arrested for making a false police report, some legal mumbo-jumbo about trying to run a con, and, my favorite part, assault and battery. Once she'd realized that she'd blown it, about the same instant she was handcuffed, she started weeping and explaining that she didn't have the money for the payments on the car and that her only option was to fake an accident, but that I'd been faking too and hadn't been injured. You gotta believe me, she wouldn't lie about that. I signed my name to an almost letter picture-perfect statement of events over at the police station, being careful to never mention in my own statement about how my nose got banged up or how I'd ended up unconscious and hanging out of the door. The arresting officer's report, as well as the EMT's, had already noted that it appeared that I'd either been partially ejected by the impact or might have been trying to get out of the truck at the last moment. I've always believed that one should never sign one's name to a false statement. Wisest in the long run, don't you think? Turned out that her car insurance was good, however, and they paid for my little pickup's repair. The damage wasn't as bad as it originally looked, thank God. A little front-end work, a new radiator, and assorted other dinged or dented gizmos, a little cosmetic surgery to make her outside look right once more. Hell, the mechanic is even gonna toss in a full overhaul, including fixing that damn fan belt. I had to drive a loaner for the next week, also care of the blonde's insurance, and the irony of this will make you laugh. It was a little red Chevy. Nice car, and my wife and I had a ball riding in it, but way too expensive for a guy like me to drive every day. Hell, a car that nice might have made me try something stupid to make the payments. P.S. The title is the punchline from a fairly appropriate joke. Extra points if you can identify it just by the punchline. Ah, man, I don't know it. Anyway, I love this story. OP, you are so good. She tried to scam you, or she tried to involve you in a scam, or whatever the hell, however it's supposed to be, whatever. Anyway, you are just too smart for her ass. This was cool. Alright, this story's called Tell Us We're Slacking? Well, be prepared to be carbon copied on every single email we send. Some background. I work for a place that you really need customers to come inside in order to do proper business. However, I also work for a place that, due to ProRevenge, we're not allowed to let customers inside anymore. All of our work needs to be done through email or mail. You can see how fun this is. We are also only allowed one employee in the office at a time. The rest must telework on the day they're not scheduled to be in. It's an absolute cluster love, but we're doing the best we can. I personally feel like we've been kicking ass considering the circumstance, but I guess I was wrong. Yesterday, my boss sends me and my coworkers, there's 4 of us in total, an email saying that we've been slacking off and told us if we were unhappy, we should find a new job. We were all flabbergasted, flummoxed, floored if you will. I was absolutely fuming because we have been busting ass, and she has the audacity to tell us we've been slacking while she never comes into the office. So we all decided that we were going to carbon copy her on every single email we send out or reply to. Now we're coming up on a pretty big deadline soon, so we've been emailing out massive amounts of contracts and eligibility documents to be signed. I probably send out at least 150 emails a day. Same with my coworkers. Even the emails that were only a simple "thanks, I got that document," she was carbon copied on. She probably has been carbon copied on over 500 emails in the last 24 hours. Still no word from her yet, but I'm really hoping she gets the point. If not, I'll just keep carbon copying her on every single email until the end of time. It's stupid and silly, but it's annoying her while at the same time proving her wrong about our work ethic. Win-win. Good stuff, OP. You got her good. I hate getting emails. I hate emailing. In fact, just communicating with people in general, unless it's like face-to-face or like on a PlayStation party or a Discord call or a Snapchat or Tinder messages. But even then, it's still kind of tedious. With PlayStation and Discord, at least you're gaming, right? Alright, this story's called Contract Ended with My Company. Boss wanted me to stay an extra week, but I said no. Warning, English is not my first language and my grammar's not the best. It's okay, buddy. It's the effort that counts. Just practice, 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 and read. You know what? A lot of my writing knowledge and everything comes from how much I used to read when I was a kid. But I stopped reading as soon as I got a phone because no good reason. So back in 2017, I used to be a receptionist machinist/security guard and worked at a customer site. I had been working for this company for about a year and went through 3 different supervisors. My last supervisor was notoriously known for not responding to emails, phone calls, or texts. It got so bad, I had the regional director involved in this issue. A couple months go by, and I was able to get my bachelor's and a better job. As is custom, I sent my 2 weeks notice in an email, CCing, carbon copying, all my leadership so they were aware of it. As usual, there is no response from my supervisor. A week goes by and I haven't heard if they're going to be sending a replacement because I need to start training them. I even text him asking him if he wants me to stay an extra week, but hear nothing back. So my last week comes, and on Monday, my boss texts me to ask me if I can stay the extra week because they still haven't found a replacement. I text him back that I'll do it, but he'll have to pay me $5 above my hourly wage. He texts back saying that it couldn't be done, so I text back that now it'll be $10 above my normal wage. And I tell him that if he doesn't respond, the rate goes up another $10. He calls me on a conference with another supervisor and tells me that I can't do that, and I respond with a, yes I can. Oh, Bob the Builder. As you can imagine, he didn't take me on my offer, and I had 1 week where I could just slack off before I started my new job. That's it, my man. That's it. Know your goddamn worth. Alright? This stupid employer doesn't want to freaking respond to you until he needs you? Well then, tough luck for him. My price just went up. I tried to snap. Bob the Builder, can we fix it? Bob the Builder, yes, we can. I used to love that show when I was a kid. The way the art style is, it looks so good. Like, it looks appetizing. I don't get it. Like, it looks like it'd be like kind of like a it looks like the everything's made out of like a cake or something, and it's got like a nice layer of frosting on it, and like the cake is like a fruity cake. Not a fruit cake. Fruit cake is good, but like, you know, like fruity cake. And I don't know. That show is just so good. I mean, at least from what I remember, which is nothing except for that little bit. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.